here.
Okay, cool. When this call's over, I'll dive into it, and then I'll ping you back when it's when I get into it. No problem.
Awesome. Okay, well, it's 11 o'clock. We have a lot to do. We have some guests here who from RChain who will be speaking today about their project. And we have, I think, some fun updates on the dev side. So let me turn it over to Kelly to get that rolling, and then we'll jump into the rest of the conversation.
Excellent. Thanks, Greg. I'm putting a link in the chat window to the document that I'm going to speak to, and sharing my screen here. All right, so here we are, community update number 58. We are in the midst of a current sprint set to end February 18th, where our priorities are consensus stability, block store completion, working towards cost accounting, and working toward the delivery of the wallet features. This is an interesting point. We have pivoted to doing feature work. We had been focused primarily on stability work over the past several weeks or months, really, and now we're reintroducing feature work, and so we are very excited to be doing that. We had planned to release 8.4 early this week on Monday. That is currently blocked related to a bug. Kent is working on a fix. We anticipate it will be the fix will be in by end of week, and then we'll need to make sure that the fix is truly a fix, but that is the blocking portion of 8.4 at this point. Just as a reminder, you can look at what we're working towards Mercury in our features document in GitHub. We are continuing to work with Whiteblock to deliver the implementation of our test plan, as well as in conversation to understand if their platform is going to be a viable hardening solution for us. That is still not clear. We don't have a public test net yet. You are welcome to take a look at what's blocking that. But I am pleased at the work that's happened over the past couple months to improve stability. The things that are left are largely the block store and largely bugs related to consensus. So that is definitely good news. Speaking of block storage, we do have an implementation of the block store currently running in the dev testnet. We're expecting a PR today so that we can continue to take a look at that implementation and understanding, getting this block store complete is becoming more and more critical, because we have identified it this week as really being key to resolving our out of memory errors that we're seeing in our dev testnet. So we're going to be a little all hands on deck, making sure that that block store gets in as quickly as possible. Consensus. So if you are a regular in our Tuesday testing sessions, you observed the assertion error. And so the fix came in for the assertion error, great news. It also introduced a really pesky non-deterministic bug, which is the one that's currently blocking the release. Kent is investigating it. It's going to take about 3 PRs in the end to resolve it. But he is optimistic that we can get that done by the end of this week. So we're excited about that. Also, there's work in progress to expand the unit test coverage for the Clique Oracle. This will help with debugging going forward. Cost accounting work. Just at a high level, cost accounting requires a tiered approach related to the rolling interpreter. And so the cost accounting team that's the focus of their work during the sprint, is to deliver that. And you can read more about that in the JIRA ticket provided there. The Node team has been investigating the out-of-memory error. They did some really good work and have come out with a plan for how to resolve. Most of the solution there lies in completion and delivery of the block store. There are some other, what Pavel describes as about 30% of the rest of the solution comes from some smaller improvements that they're going to start working on immediately. The SRE team is improving the performance testnet harness, largely with Ansible playbooks, and that work is almost complete. They've also made some improvements for testnet monitoring and have done a fair amount of housekeeping over the past few days, which I'm very, very grateful for. The wallet team, we are expecting a PR today for the resolution to this bug related to integer overflow and being a vulnerability in the MakeMint contract. And that team is currently still resolving some questions related to contract signing, and looking forward to really getting into wallet work going forward. As always, the developer website is available to you, and it has all of the information about the current release, as well as links to our wiki, where you can always take a deep dive in both the wiki and in Jira. Any questions?
Thank you, Kelly. I thought it was a really nice summary. So even though we do have this this bug that was introduced, I'm super excited about the progress we've made on stability. It's been that getting that out of memory thing identified, and was a lot of work on behalf of the team. I also want to point out, I had a really nice conversation with Dom earlier this morning. We were looking at an issue around block merge. And, you know, Mike Stay had provided this nice table on block merge. But when you get to the, very comprehensive, actually. But when you get to the issue around making payments to the Casper wallet, virtually every transaction is ultimately going to have to go through the Casper wallet, which meant that block merge would be next to impossible to take care of unless we took a different tack on this. And this is where the whole use of names or channels methodology is so powerful. Essentially, what we realized was that all of those transactions to the Casper wallet are deposits, and as a result, they're commutative and effectively isolated. And so the question is, how could you represent that isolation using the name mechanism to sort of represent the, you know, separate names is the most direct way to represent isolation. And the answer is quite straightforward. Dom and I hit on it, like, I think in about 3 minutes, which is a variant of a kind of hierarchical wallet. So each, roughly speaking, I mean, there's a little bit more devil in the details, but roughly speaking, each validator gets their own sub wallet or sub address of the Casper wallet. So if you want to know the balance of the Casper wallet, you have to add up all the sub addresses, and how that's done is really an implementation detail, at least from the perspective of solving this particular requirement. And so since they have their own addresses, they don't step on each other's toes, and the existing block merge solution does what it's supposed to do. So there's nothing that we have to do to treat this specially, and there's and it just fits inside the existing analysis, and shows how powerful the methodology of using names in this way and namespaces in this way is. And, you know, Dom and I had a nice conversation about the dual to this, right? So in order to increase concurrency, you fan clients out into different names. In order to increase security, you funnel clients down into well-controlled names, because names represent capabilities. And so the methodology spans the full gamut of all of these different phenomena and provides us this really nifty way of maintaining and managing those. So I was exceptionally pleased. I mean, literally, we got on the phone at like 9 in the morning, and by 9:12 we were done. So this is the kind of thing I like to see, and you know, fits with the sort of claims that we've been making all along, that this approach has some distinct advantages. Anyway, I found that compelling and interesting, and it was a highlight of my day so far. But anything else from the community regarding the dev update? Awesome. Okay, so yeah, thank you, Kelly. Thank you very much. So with that, there's a sort of connected to our dev update. You know, I think a lot of people have been involved in what we've been talking about with respect to how the back end of RSong is much more generic than being focused on the delivery of songs to players. It's all about the management of digital assets, and even beyond digital assets to the management of physical assets or other kinds of things like that. And so to this point, we've been talking with other groups who have digital asset management requirements, and we got in touch with a group called RChain, who are interested in providing a solution for the management of fine art impressions. So I've invited them to come and speak today about their project, and then sort of make an appeal to the community after that. But first, I'd like to introduce Kirsten and Gary, who are the founders of RChain, and let them speak a little bit about their project, their motivations, and then we can talk to how it fits in with RChain, and in particular, how RSong, the back end of RSong, could greatly accelerate them on their path. So with that, Kirsten, are you ready to present?
Sure. Thank you, Greg. I really appreciate being invited to come here, and for all the time you've spent with us already to show us how RChain could be a great solution for us. So, basically, as RSong is the music licensing and high quality transmission, what you are to high quality music licensing, we are to digital art licensing. So we're creating a new registry developed to instill or to reinstill integrity and transparency around worldwide art digital image licenses and their uses and licensing transactions, to ensure that all image and rights sources are being equitably paid for their images, and their images remain secure. So we had another company prior to this called 1,000 Museums, where we licensed digital images of works from global museums that we have used for reproductions that we sold through and to museums. It was a very expensive and complex process to obtain the rights from the museums or artists, and the rights to use, which were above and beyond the image itself when works were under copyright. So as a result, about 95% of worldwide copyrighted images remain inaccessible and are not really providing any revenues currently back to either the institutions or the artists. So we especially, this speaks to us especially when it comes to the world of indigenous culture artists, who we really would like to see more exposure and payments happen back to them, because they are very underrepresented within the art world. So, at the end of the day, we believe that RChain provides a great trusted source and infrastructure for us to create a conduit from and to the museums and to the artists. So we have an asset management system currently that is open source. It's called Resource Space, but we're looking to see if anyone might be interested in helping us build back the back-end MVP of a blockchain technology that we could then take to the worldwide museums. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Thank you very much. I mean, that was astonishingly succinct and very clear and lucid. I wonder if there's anyone in the community who has any questions, especially Kayvon, if you had any questions or thoughts or comments about what they're doing.
Yes, thank you. I'm actually quite excited to see, maybe get on one-on-one with you and maybe walk through a use case as how your design is and how you're planning on doing onboarding of digital assets. As Greg mentioned, we have a generic framework in terms of RSong, where we basically receive assets and then try to aggregate those assets into a product, regardless of what product that is, whether it's music or whether it's art or anything that basically we need to keep track of its life cycle. So I am excited to work with you. I put my email into the chat, and please feel free to reach out to me.
Okay.
There we go. Oh, by the way, Kirsten, Kayvon is the architect of the high performance delivery of the back end for our song. It was his architectural choices that makes it possible for us to deliver the audio data at scale under load. So he would be a really good guy to talk to.
That's great. No, that excites us to no end. I mean, like I say, we think the fit is perfect, and the world really needs this. We think it does.
I have more of a speculative question outside, potentially outside the scope. But I mean, as far as I know, the actual fine art market's around $70 billion worldwide. Is there any plan to potentially build out some sort of an exchange, because price discovery in the fine art market is next to impossible and it's highly manipulated? Is this something that you guys have thought about or are interested in?
Not really. We're much more interested in the digital image itself, and the digital reproduction and rights to reproduce, rather than the actual art market itself. That's just a whole big sticky wicket that we're not really wanting to do. We believe that this in its own right is a many billion-dollar market in the licensing, the long-term licensing ability of this content. So we'd rather stay in our little ring.
That said, if we were able to provide a credible solution for this area, then we begin to sort of rub elbows and make contact with people who are interested in the art market, and of course there's a major intersection between that and some kind of stablecoin offering.
Well, this is Gary Johnson. I'm the CEO of RChain, along with Kirsten's co-founder. And to her point, the original art market is already very muddy, with people doing provenance and registration for micro investments. So we anticipate coordinating with some or several of those folks, because ownership on its own is an element of what we need to register. But a lot of people are chasing that space while no one is chasing reproduction. So as far as a differentiator, us establishing a foothold in a completely different way may position us to take more of that messy space, but we need to establish ourselves first.
Yeah, understood. Ned, I'm curious, from your perspective, do you think it might be interesting or useful to have Kirsten or some members of her team participate in some of our requirements discussions on the intake?
Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea. We're making good progress on the UX design, so maybe once we have that nailed down a little more, and Fabian is back from the conference, I think setting up a meeting would be really great.
Awesome. Okay, so that's also good progress. I think Jonathan, you had a bunch of comments in the chat. Do you want to give voice to those?
Yeah, I went to a conference in Mexico way back in February, and this discussion is prompting a recollection of having met a very, very accomplished photographer named Gabriella, who told me about a project called Stocksy, based in Vancouver, BC. And they've been wrestling with DRM for photographers, and they were at the time thinking about getting into blockchain, but they weren't quite ready, and they hadn't seen any solutions that would work for them. So Kirsten, I'll be glad to pass Gabriella's information to you. She also was involved in legislation being submitted to the U.S. Congress about DRM issues and photography. So I think she's a really great contact, and maybe there's something you all could do together.
No, that would be great. Well, in general, from the museum market that we're a little bit focused on, or more so focused on, fine art photography falls in that squarely. The photography business in general is much broader than just our market, but there's no question that if we build this, there's no reason why every photographer in Getty Images shouldn't want to be part of a system such as this to protect their works.
Yeah, and fine arts photography was definitely a passion and concern of Gabriella.
Great.
So another good question, and then maybe we need to move on to other topics. But we've been talking with a fellow by the name of Michael Flynn, who is has been working in the audio industry for quite some time. He's been directly involved with legislation around the MMA and in sort of analyzing technical solutions. So that's the Music Modernization Act, and addresses some of the concerns that artists have with respect to compensation. And he's been doing analysis of the various technical solutions that can support the rollout of the MMA, and has come to the conclusion that a kind of registry for audio data is something that's really a natural next step. And we've been talking with him. He sort of has already put together a domain, and is already in the process of sort of speccing out an offering which he calls the reg.io. And I wonder, is there a corresponding registry component to what you're doing, sort of a national registry of images or something like that? Is that a part of what you guys would be interested in?
Exactly. Matter of fact, when I heard him speaking about his music registry, it brought to mind the fact that it is totally one-to-one. Yes, it is the image as well as all the rights and transaction transparency.
Fantastic. That's very good. So I'd love to get you guys involved in our requirements discussions. I also want to put a call out to the community. So if there are community members who want to get involved in sort of helping Arterial get to an MVP, I think that there's a way in which everyone can win. One of the most important things that the co-op wants to demonstrate is, literally from a particular point where we say, okay, go, that the back end of our song could be tweaked so that we could get to an MVP in roughly the 2-week time frame. We think that's the level of acceleration that we can provide with the our song backend. So would love to reach out to folks. Obviously, the co-op will be engaged in helping. I know that our Arterial folks are quite interested in MVP. So if there are anyone in the community who wants to come forward and pitch in and lend a hand on this, I think this represents a significant opportunity for everyone, and is also the way that I've always imagined that the cooperative works. We recognize an opportunity, we roll up our sleeves, we build it, and then people come.
That's a logical segue to something I think we really need to touch on today, which is the Venn intersection of Kayvon's brilliant work on creating this generalizable platform and community engagement. I really want to thank everybody that has contributed so many great ideas for naming this generalizable toolkit, tool, framework, whatever you want to call it. And we've collected I think 270 maybe candidate names, and internally we've been winnowing it down, and Kayvon and some other people are going to submit to the community a very small subset of names that properly characterize what it is that Kayvon has built and conveys to potential users of it for a community vote. So I really want to thank everybody. this again is an example of what community can be, and I just want to thank everybody.
Thank you, Jonathan. I couldn't agree more. And I think there's you know, I'm very excited about the kind of opportunity that's available here in particular, and I just want to see more and more of this kind of involvement. I know over the past year we've had the bounty program to try to encourage engagement. But now we're at the place where the rubber meets the road. We have enough of the platform defined and running and being exercised by dApps like RSong and Proof, that it's more meaningful engagement, especially for folks who have a hankering to do some development. Now's the time. Naming is good. Slinging bits is better. So with that, though, Jonathan, you said are there any updates from RChain Asia?
Nothing I wish to report right now, partly because it's Chinese New Year in most of East Asia, so a lot of things are right now latent, and but I will be back next week with a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh, cool! Yeah, we're running into the Chinese New Year stuff on a number of business development fronts for the co-op as well, the U.S. co-op as well. Absolutely. So with that, I wanna quickly turn it over to Derek to talk a little bit about a podcast that either is coming up or has already come up, the first of the Brain Candy series.
It's up, and honestly, as I mentioned in the podcast, media is my specialty. Brain Candy is yours. So I speak very little in the podcast. I just introduce it with you and Christian Williams, and it is live now. So I know it's a popular feature of this call. So for anyone who wants to hear, it came in about 55 minutes. So anyone that wants to hear a deep dive into the Brain Candy, check it out on all of our channels, iTunes, the blog, SoundCloud, etc.
Oh, excellent! No, I'm really I was pleased with that conversation. I thought it was a really good conversation. It was really quite encouraging to have Christian on the call and to have some back and forth. I think one of the things that's most important for me to convey to a wider audience is just the RoCalc framework it's not a one-trick pony. It's much larger than a single computational model. It defines, in many ways, if we think about Casper, Casper is not one single protocol. It's a family of protocols that address most of the, if not all, of the major concerns about proof of stake, at least at the protocol level. I mean, there might be other issues around incentivization or network rollout and those kinds of things. But at the protocol level, the Casper family of protocols addresses the issues around proof of stake in a relatively parsimonious and elegant way. But it's not one protocol. There are lots of them. In fact, there's an infinite number of Casper protocols, just if you consider liveness. But of course there are other issues than just liveness. So in the same way that we've sketched out a framework of protocols for consensus, the row setting provides a framework for execution models. And in particular, it provides a means by which one can evaluate a full range of expressiveness characteristics of computing in a concurrency setting. So you can look at everything from below Turing complete to Turing complete to above Turing complete. So there's an infinite tower computational models, and they're organized by a single sort of set of guiding principles, or a coherent set of guiding principles. And then the other piece of the puzzles is that it provides a number of tools or techniques for people who are interested in designing or evaluating various computational calculi. And then finally, I think one of the nice things is that it provides design level thinking strategies and conceptual apparatus that motivate why we use category theory. So if you look at the podcast and you look at the slides, you'll see that we use this circuit analogy, but the truth is that those circuit diagrams are really string diagrams in an appropriate two category or higher category. So you don't have to know that in order to utilize them to go spelunking and mountaineering in the range of computational calculi, but they do have this nice foundation. So it's important to deliver these kinds of things to the community as well, so that they understand, it's there's a wider range of value here, and I'm hoping that the next generation of folks gets excited and interested and starts running with those tools as well. And then the other thing that's in the pipeline, about ready to be released, is an article that Derek and Nora Germain and I have put together on blockchain as a tool for political transformation. We had some very nice feedback from Jonathan this morning, who spares no doesn't hold back any punches. He had a wonderful comment that on the order of, how can an organization so young and so challenged have anything useful to say about sustainability or regenerative kinds of tools or techniques or technologies, and I think it's a wonderful comment. I in my own thinking about this, life is this remarkable thing that looks to be astonishingly fragile, and surprises us at every turn in terms of its anti-fragility and robustness. And I think that the decentralization movement in general, and the RChain cooperative specifically, has exactly those characteristics. So that's why I think RChain has the right to talk about these kinds of things. But more to the point, the article is not just about RChain, but about blockchain as a generic approach to political transformation.
As I mentioned, Greg, I'm going to be posting that soon, so that'll be up today. I also want to mention that Jim Whitescarver wrote a great piece on Roland on Medium, and I asked him if we could republish on the blog, and he said yes. So I'm going to be putting that up today too. So lots of good content for people to be checking out this week.
Very, very good. Very good. Is Nora on the call?
Yeah, I'm here. What's up?
Well, I just wondered if you wanted to follow up with any of the comments about the article.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, I just think, like, whenever you're writing an article like this, and I've done a few of them kind of more related to the music sort of side of things, but with blockchain, I think it really depends on who's going to read it, because, like, you can write articles like this that are really meant for people who, like with this article, who are really into sort of the political revolution ideas. You could write an article like this for people who are more, feel more promise with the status quo, and you're kind of trying to convince them that there's more out there and we can do better. And you can write it for, blockchain skeptics or blockchain enthusiasts. And anyway, so I think the trick when you're writing an article like this is just to figure out who it's kind of going to be for. And if you're not sure who's going to read it or where it's going to be discovered, because of course, when you put something on the internet, you don't know, who's going to pick it up or who's going to share it. I just think it's great to cover all the perspectives so that anybody who reads it can find something for them. You know what I mean? So I think that's the kind of the challenge, but I think we're approaching a good version. So I think it's a great piece.
Cool. Yeah, understood. And Nuno, thanks for your comment. We put a draft into the link to a draft requesting comments in the members channel in Discord. So the assumption was that at least some number of the members of the community would have already had some exposure to this. But the article is about to come out hopefully today or early tomorrow. So people can take a look at it. We're just giving people a little test. I think with that, so we can move on to some business updates. So probably the one of the biggest updates is that we had a board meeting yesterday. This was largely an informational board meeting. There were no votes taken. So that will be reflected in the minutes. The minutes from January were approved. The one piece that I think everyone has been looking for is an update on the financials. To the best of my knowledge, what was holding that, or the biggest blocker on that, was the reconciliation of the Bitcoin balances, the BTC balances. And that traces back to just I think most of that traced back to the handoff on the Bittrex account when we went from one CFO to the next. So to the best of my knowledge, Kenny reported he believes that is done. So he's handing off the books to Hunt Jackson. And so I think we're over the hump on that. Kenny doesn't seem to be here, but we can get an update in the Discord channel about that very shortly. I'm expecting that to be done, this week or early next at the latest. Let's see. Is there anything else on the business side for updates? I can't think of anything. So with that, let me turn it over to the community and see if the community has any questions, comments on anything that we've covered so far.
Well, good evening, everybody, or good morning. I was just wondering if anybody, particularly you, Greg, had the chance to have a look at the Telegram channel where several accusations were made, and if you have a statement for that.
So if you're referring to the accusations that Renal made, Barry Cinnamon, a member of the board, has already responded. Renal seems to be unable to make comments in any RChain related channels that are truthful. He was banned and remains banned from Discord precisely because he continues to make factually incorrect and easily checked statements. It's
if I can,
it's unfortunate that this is the case.
Easily check because you guys do not release your financial reports at all.
Actually, we have released the finances from last year, and we're updating them within a few weeks. You never get this kind of transparency from any other organization, but we appreciate that people want
radical transparency.
We appreciate that people want radical transparency, and again, this is we endeavor as fast as we can to get this done. So yeah, we hope to, but you can easily see the board resolutions that were associated with the issues that Murnal is reflecting on. They're in the GitHub. We can post links again in Discord if people are interested. You can track the transactions, and you can track all of the signatures associated with that. So Mernal's comments are easily verified without any additional financial information as fallacious and maliciously so.
I would like to make a general comment about RChain community and world communications, which is that on the one hand, we are an exceedingly well-documented project, and we've got countless hours of video recordings and you know, Discord things and whatnot. But one problem is that both Discord and Telegram are unfortunately infinite scrolls, and certain questions, you know, very reasonably get asked over and over again, and there's no FAQ that's cumulatively created in response to these questions. And it would be, I've already had a conversation internally about how I think it's really important for people that are in the know and authoritative create a canonical answer for frequently asked questions, and cumulatively build a pinned maybe FAQ channel within Discord and a pinned FAQ in Telegram. The current FAQ in Telegram is you know, just huge and sprawling and intimidating, and you look in there and you just don't know how to navigate through it. I think it would be really good to have something that's really crisp, well organized, and something where if somebody, you know, piles in and doesn't want to read back, you know, 30, 100, 1,000 messages and ask a question, we can simply say, look at the FAQ.
Yeah, no, I think that's an awesome approach, Jonathan. I also, I want to add to that suggestion another idea, which is that we treat the communication channels that we have, whether they're Discord, Telegram, or other channels, as if they were precious resources. And we come to the dialogue with this idea that the attention of our friends, colleagues, collaborators, coworkers are in fact precious. And then when we conduct our dialogue, we think about, is this comment going to do justice to the conversation, or to the preciousness of the attention of our fellow cooperators?
No, it's just that sometimes we don't have enough information to judge.
You
know what I mean? It's just
sure,
that
of course,
somebody puts something outside, and there's, under my perspective, a substantial lack of information coming into public within this co-op, and at the end, most of the people don't really know what's going on.
Understood. So with respect to the issue that you brought up before, that issue was made public in September, October, December, and there are GitHub links that have been referenced in these conversations previously. So what you're really saying refers to what Jonathan is talking about, which is the information out there. The information is out there, but it scrolls by and people don't catch it. So providing a FAQ is an important tool. What I'm talking about is the fact that when I go to Discord, when I go to Telegram, there are so much commentary, and in the cases of certain individuals, this is by design. There's so much commentary that it is impossible to scroll through those channels to get to interesting or useful or important information.
I have two questions for you. When is the your blockchain coming out, and when do you release your financial reports?
So we release the financial reports on a quarterly basis. We're a little bit late on the most recent financial report, and it should be out, as I said, end of this week or beginning of next. I see no reason why we won't hit those kinds of deadlines, at least based upon what was reported to me from our the team that's handling that. With respect to the blockchain, we've talked about the right now the published date is the 31st of March. We've talked about how when we moved the team in-house and had a few other
No, hold on. We never agreed to a March 31st.
No, I understand.
I mean, there's no way that that's published.
What I'm, Kelly, just so we're clear, I'm talking about previously we had been targeting the end of this year, and then back in October we had, or sorry, late August, we had a meeting in which we said we would slip to the end of the first quarter. And then when we had the reorg, we haven't had a published date that fixes that date. So that's the history. And right now, what we've been engaged in is a requirements analysis to get to a confident date setting. And I think that requirements analysis is complete enough that we will be able to commit to a date in the foreseeable future. Within the next few sprints, we'll be able to commit, have the team stand behind a date that we feel we can deliver on. But we don't want to raise expectations until we have the commitment from the team. But we will be very close to. In fact, I would say there are only 2 remaining user-facing features, and the team is working on those even as we speak.
Let's make sure that we're clear that those features are wallets and cost accounting. That does not include validator incentives.
Fair enough. That's correct. That's exactly right.
I'm wondering, is it the case that the R thingy and R song are essentially functional and of possible great utility, even in the absence of the RChain platform proper being launched?
Well,
we have to run on something.
Yeah, exactly. Can you restate your question, Jonathan? I didn't quite catch all of it.
Okay, so our song right now is a functional thing. It delivers audio. It uses Rolang. It uses components of the RChain technology, but it's not the full meal deal that we're all really wanting to see with mainnet whenever that comes out. But my question is it the case that the generalizable architecture that Kayvon has built can start providing value and proof of the value of our technology without a full-fledged RChain network?
Oh, yes, that's been the point since September, yes.
I thought so, but I just wanted to raise that to everybody's attention.
So in particular for Nuno, who is interested in these questions, you're free to launch a testnet yourself right now. So we can get you pointed in the right direction. You can start playing with the platform right now.
I'd like to get a reality check from Kelly and Kayvon.
Kelly, do you mind if I expand on that?
That would be helpful. I'm not very familiar with our song's functionality.
Excellent. So Jonathan is absolutely right. The way, bear with me with the detail. So every time we have a new release, one of the things that I do is I build the entire R node, which is basically our implementation of RChain, and I deploy that to a Google Cloud. So that is RChain running on a Google Cloud. Today's R song is working with the latest release of Dev, which is I think 8.4 or 0.84. So it is running against the very code that anybody can go download and build at low code. And then and then I basically do a redeployment of RSong, because a lot of times these changes require changes of the underlying library, and then RSong will start working again. Actually, it always works. It's just the deployment is a hot deployment. It doesn't come down. Did that clear it up?
So Jonathan, he's running RSong on the platform as it exists in development today.
Yes, that's basically what I was trying to say. Thank you, Kelly.
No, well, I just want to make sure that we're clear, because I think, as I understood Jonathan's question, is RSong functional without the platform? And have you done, Kayvon, have you done an implementation of RSong on another platform?
Well, I always do a local deployment before I put it on Google Cloud. And it's running on VM, it's running on 2 VMs, so it actually creates a network.
No, I mean on another, like on Ethereum, for example.
No. Oh,
No,
I see. No.
you couldn't do it on Ethereum.
That's, I think that was the crux of the question. Correct, Jonathan?
No, the question is, let me rephrase. The question is whether the RSong implementation sensu stricto and any generalizable instantiations of it to other purposes can essentially be functional and provide value to the world, even prior to quote unquote mainnet, whenever that comes.
Yes. So that's absolutely the case, Jonathan. I think that what you just heard from Kayvon confirms that. But anyone who has access to iOS mobile device or an Android mobile device could verify that for themselves, right? They can go and just test out RSong. They can do packet sniffing. They can go to the GitHub repositories. They can launch it themselves. It can all be done with no trust in us at all to verify that in fact the application is running against the platform, even in advance of the delivery of the two features two user-facing features that we are focusing on knocking out of the park. Does that make sense?
What about scaling and economics? I think they have to wait for mainnet.
So the economics, no, the whole point of the next two features is the economics. The only remaining economics questions have to do with validator incentivization, and I will, since it's so close to the top of the hour, I'm going to hold back on that conversation, but we can dive into that conversation at our next earliest convenience.
My understanding is that scaling is actually a core feature of what Kayvon has built, with the Kubernetes clusters being able to scale up or scale down in accordance to load. Is that correct, Kayvon?
That is correct. That was part of the reason we chose the Kubernetes cluster, because we can scale up and down without incurring costs. So, well, without incurring unnecessary costs. So when we have no traffic, we basically have two instances running, and depending on the load, it can go as high as it's needed to meet the requirement.
Yeah, but there are a couple of different issues here with respect to scaling. But again, I don't really want to go into too much detail. There's sort of different layers of scaling and scaling capability here. But certainly the Kubernetes clusters play a big role in the RSong scaling. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate the dialogue, and I especially appreciate, Nuno, your engagement, and it brings to light a lot of these issues with respect to the platform and also the co-op and how we communicate. I think we have this big wide woolly internet, and lots of people get lots and lots of different viewpoints. And it's very useful to be able to have these kinds of meetings where we can come together and sync up and share what everyone else knows, so that we can make sure we're we have a common understanding. With that, I think we're done unless there are any other questions, comments, concerns people have. Going once, going twice. All right, silence is golden. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again next week. Kirsten, I'll send out some access to meeting times so that you can get engaged in our requirements conversation, and we will let you know with respect to any other community members that might step forward to help you with your process.
Thanks all for this meeting.
Ciao.